happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing, celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day.
We celebrate for myriad of reasons, reverence and kinship, all over the seasons, meeting, keeping faith, whatever we believe in. Every precious moment, so imbued with meaning. Coquito and parandas, merriment and joy, from elders in each family to every girl and boy. Festive attire to lift up every voice. Hoist up a glass of your beverage of choice. Whatever it is you celebrate, we've got something for you. Every apparatus from Kanara to Menorah, everything's a part of it from fauna to the flora. Shindig, chilling in my holiday fedora, building on the happy times we're hoping to have more of. Rejoice with the feast, warm tidings how we greet you. We got a full spread, vegetarians can eat too. Sending happy gifts of love and fellowship to each of you. Shorties playing peekaboo, learning why they're teaching you to seek the youthful energy that's reaching through.
Oh, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing, celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day.
Yeah, gratitude and blessings for your essence. Knowing that our presence is much more than a present. Heaven knows what we can do with coalescence. The feeling of our fellowship is something effervescent. Checking on your brethren, your kindred and your peeps. Cause sharing peace and love could be the promise that we keep. 12 months out of the year, 7 days out of the week. So let's all celebrate and plant a seed for every tree.
Oh, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing, celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. Oh, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing, celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day.
We celebrate for myriad of reasons, reverence and kinship, all over the seasons, meeting, keeping faith, whatever we believe in. Every precious moment, so imbued with meaning. Coquito and parandas, merriment and joy, from elders in each family to every girl and boy. Festive attire to lift up every voice. Hoist up a glass of your beverage of choice. Whatever it is you celebrate, we've got something for you. Every apparatus from Kanara to Menorah, everything's a part of it from fauna to the flora. Shindig, chilling in my holiday fedora, building on the happy times we're hoping to have more of. Rejoice with the feast, warm tidings how we greet you. We got a full spread, vegetarians can eat too. Sending happy gifts of love and fellowship to each of you. Shorties playing peekaboo, learning why they're teaching you to seek the youthful energy that's reaching through.
Oh, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing, celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day.
Gratitude and blessings for your essence. Knowing that our presence is much more than a present. Heaven knows what we can do with coalescence. The feeling of our fellowship is something effervescent. Checking on your brethren, your kindred and your peeps. Cause sharing peace and love could be the promise that we keep. 12 months out of the year, 7 days out of the week. So let's all celebrate and plant a seed for every tree.
Oh, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing to celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Arbor Day.
Yes, we are here. It is Friday night. It is the Gangstagrass team stream.
Yurt.
Yes. We have Dolio the Sleuth. We have Arson, the voice of reason. We have Doug Slaughter, who is the public health director for the Hood Medicine Initiative and an epidemiologist, which we are very interested in. Pretty soon we'll have Dr. Nisi Hudson joining us. We might have some other folks from the Hood Medicine Initiative drop in. They are doing great work out there. I am Sleeves, manager of Gangstagrass, and let's kick off nice and easy here. How was your week, our son, the voice of reason?
It was wild, man. My young boy, like I said, is playing football, playing flag football. So he's the illest. Man is just be running up and down the field mad fast, making tackles and such. A couple kids actually got tackled, which I find amusing. The whole thing about flag football is like, we don't want anybody to get hurt, and every now and again somebody just gets clobbered. That makes me happy. My oldest son is playing the trumpet. They had a thing last week at Temple University, and he was soloing. And let me just tell you, I cried like a idiot, like a damn moron. I was like, oh. So proud of that boy. So proud of him. And my daughter got her laptop for college, so she's getting ready to go to college in January. And yeah, man, I got nothing to complain about except for being broke. But I know a guy that needs a kidney, so my kidneys are pretty good. I figure I'd slang one of those over on Canal Street. Get some money on one of these good kidneys, maybe a piece of this liver. I'll be all right. What's up with y'all?
Hold on to the kidneys. The liver you can grow back.
There you go.
Word. I mean, just one kidney, because they both real good. So I figure if I sell one, I'll be all right.
Yeah, but then what if one of your kids needs one?
Yeah, you're right.
That's a good point.
My luck, I would sell one that week.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be like, oh, I'm out. Oh, my bad.
Or it'd be like that one of those stories where like the person like sells their hair, and the other person like that sold like, I don't know, their beard or something in order to buy combs for the person with the hair.
Yeah.
The other person bought some beard grease with the with the hair that he sold.
That's exactly what would happen.
You'd be like, I sold my kidney so I can get you this. You'd be like, but I got you this nice kidney brush. I'm insane. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I've been arguing with a 7-year-old for 6 hours. It's crazy.
Yo, yeah, no, you're right. That'll drive you mad. That will drive you mad. But nah, man, we holding it down. Things are good over here on this side of the world. What's up with y'all, Dunnies?
Yeah, other than arguing with a 7-year-old, Dilio the Sleuth, how's it going?
It's been good. It's been good. I only had one lecture today, and I hit Dublin and along with it. Did some encouraging words for some of my students. The past 7 days, got to see my wife in Vogue and us in the Rolling Stone.
Right. I like that.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And I made burritos tonight. With
Ooh, what kind of burritos?
I was some stewed rib roast that I did in the Dutch oven.
Okay,
And
pimp.
some black beans and some short grain brown rice, a little bit of avocado.
Well, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, really.
I'll be chefing it up. Well, they know. The rest of the squad knows. They get to indulge, especially because they know I'm making my own tortillas.
Yeah, I bought some. I bought a burrito.
Oh, that's an achievement.
Just got here. Yeah, right. Not nearly as cool.
Yeah.
Not even close.
I bought fish tacos last night. That was also quite nice. And delighted to report that putting up the volume a little bit at the request of the folks at home. Let us know, delirium ? If that's sounding a little bit better. We're also very low key tonight because we know we're about to talk about some serious stuff. So, but yeah, I was really happy to report that everybody at the taco spot was wearing their mask properly, which was not the case at the poke spot I was at immediately before that. It was cute though. At the poke spot, they actually had a sign that said masks required in this area, and they were all just like, you know, they had neck masks, they had chin masks. They had there was a forehead mask that I saw. Nothing covering the proper holes that we wanted to see it covering. So I walked out and got tacos.
Hockey mask.
Yeah.
Still hockey.
Another guy dressed like Zorro. You're just like, that's not.
That's not how that works at all, bro. That is not the way that works.
So I will just let everybody know that Gangstagrass was recently in the studio, and that was pretty great. We laid down 7 new tracks. Just
Wow.
Yeah.
I wasn't counting. I just knew we did a bunch.
It was a bunch. It was a
We
real
just bang them
serious
out.
day.
It was like, okay, back in the booth.
It was
Yeah,
great.
That was hot. That was
Play
hot.
that thing.
It was great.
The
Took a
damn
little
thing
break.
got done.
Ate some sandwiches.
Okay, sounds like the audience is suggesting it sounds better now. And given that, Doug, since you are here right on time, we would love to know more about you. Tell us about your background and about what you do nowadays, and we'd love to hear all about that.
Sure. So I work in public health. I got there through kind of a roundabout way. I did my undergrad at MIT and ended up working in research, like autism and neuroscience in New York for a while. And I found myself at Hampton working on NIH-funded grants for Black men's health, right? And on the project manager side. So I did that for a while, and around the time of the birth of my son, I started to be more interested in being hands-on with the science piece of public health, right? Which I didn't have any training to do. So I went back to school to learn about epidemiology and to kind of transition from like an administrative side of public health to the science side. And I haven't looked back, and it's been a great journey. So my interest was in chronic disease, public health, but with COVID, it was really all hands on deck. So a lot of folks have, from different aspects of public health, transitioned to help with the pandemic. And so that's what I've been doing since we first had whispers of COVID, what 20 months ago or so.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And all credit to this band. We shut down real fast upon in large part because both Dolio and I have connections within the public health world. And it was, and we were reading the science, which was pretty clear in March of 2020. And unlike many other bands who kind of, sort of canceled a gig and then had to cancel another gig and then, would sort of travel, but then have to cancel another gig. And it was really sort of rough. We just shut everything down really early on, which was, not an easy thing to do, but was the right thing to do, and made alternate arrangements to figure all of that out. So huzzah to that. That said, we're really glad to be back out on the road again now that everybody is triple vaccinated. Not that that prevents the spread, but, we have mask requirements at our venues. We generally have testing or vaccination requirements as well at the venues. And it depends on the venue, it depends on where it is, but, we do our best to encourage everybody to make sure that they keep those masks on, because if you're screaming and singing along, that's the best thing that we can do. And we are not having any shows during this time, during the holiday time, not just so that everybody can be home with their families, but also so that we can not have to force anybody to, make a choice between safety and coming to see a show. I see a couple of things. I see that Noli D in the YouTube has dropped a donation. Thank you, Noli D. I want you to know that I wear that t-shirt that you gave me like all the time. It is awesome. And we have Dr. Nisi Hudson, the chair and founder of the Hood Medicine Initiative, who has just joined us. Welcome.
Look at y'all gear though.
You gotta rep,
Gotta rep.
You see the new Christmas gear?
Oh yeah, I saw
Yeah, actually, hang on.
We got new
Thwabam.
hoodies, Arson.
There it is. We got the new gear right up there on the screen for everybody. We'll come back to that a little bit later.
You're not getting none of this money. No. Broke.
Well, people got to buy your gear, Rand. That's what
I
we
need
gotta
more
do,
hoodies
too.
like I need more t-shirts.
That is to say, a great deal.
No.
Welcome. I like that. I like the one that you got on there, Dr. Nisi. That's pretty fun.
Yes, I love it. There's a couple of cool ones for Christmas to check out. So
Awesome. So we were just checking in with Doug here, who was telling us about how he ended up getting into epidemiology from the neuroscience and autism side, which, by the way, you and I, Doug, will have to back channel about that later. That is a big, fascinating topic for me. And Dr. Nisi Hudson, why don't you go ahead and tell us, for those who have not seen you on Gangstagrass.tv before, tell us about yourself and how Hood Medicine Initiative came to be created and where you came to that from and all that good stuff.
Sure. So I am a computational biologist. I got my bachelor's in biology at MIT with Dolio and Doug, and I got my PhD at the University of Louisville. So I do like bioinformatics and statistical analysis of genes, all that fun stuff. And when the pandemic first started, who could have imagined, honestly, like where we are right now? But if you'll remember, it kind of was juxtaposed with, George Floyd's public lynching. So, there were like just crowds of people, which thanks guys, thank everybody for coming out and finally taking a stand against public lynching after, I don't know, 4 centuries. But, we just, it was obvious that people were more vulnerable being in crowds like that. And a lot of people didn't understand anything about what was going on or the precautions they should take. And so we kind of decided, we had to try to do something if we could. And the first questions we started asking each other was like, how can we get like just like a guerrilla public health marketing campaign going? It's like get people to put their masks on and like get them to understand vaccines and everything, and that's kind of where public health guerrillas came from. So you're just like, we got to just get out here and get the word out. And so, so we're a nonprofit public health collective, and there's a lot of, projects and research that we've been doing lately on like public health communications and how to sort of drive adoption of vaccinations so that we can get more people over the sort of hesitancy and resistance that they feel towards it, and towards an understanding of why it's imperative for our species that we all play our part. So, so yeah, we just actually published our first paper with Dr. Peter Hotez and the Lancet, and it's basically, a description of the like public health messaging framework that that we developed to conceptualize our like culturally tailored public health communications, so that we can make sure like the intersectional BIPOC audiences that we're targeting, get information that resonates with them and compels them to take precautions to protect their families. So.
We have that up on the screen right now. So if you're looking to check out that paper, it is very readable. It is not, not science jargon. It's a real, just a sort of overview of the efforts that the Hood Medicine Initiative has been doing as far as community connection and data-driven approaches, and then wide-scale dissemination, and how you do that across these communities. So super interesting, and it's awesome that the Lancet picked that up. Good job, guys. Way to go. Way to make that happen.
Hey, there's a couple of questions coming through on the Twitch for you guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
First of all, Dr. Hudson, how does a practitioner deal with Baker Act patients in a mental health setting that refuse to wear masks? That's the first one. And then
also directed at Doug too.
Yeah, directed at both of you.
I'll let Doug take that one.
How do you deal with patients that refuse to wear a mask?
Yeah, particularly in a mental health setting, it looks like they're curious about if you're able to, I don't know if that's even a question that you guys can really answer, but if you can, go for it.
I wouldn't know. I think that I would have to defer to, what.
I wish Quinn was here to answer that.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a couple of brilliant mental health professionals. Yeah. I mean, I would imagine, I guess it kind of depends on what type of environment we're talking about. If we're talking about like a institutional type of facility or live-in facility, that, maybe there's more control in the sense of if you can't get a patient to mask, you still have hopefully the ability for other people to get masks, or, for vaccination, or, isolating, people. All of these are practical measures. They don't sound great for this environment anyway, but they're all practical measures because at the end of the day, COVID just doesn't care. It doesn't care, that that's a really tenuous, difficult situation to navigate in that patient care setting. It doesn't care that you want to go to Applebee's and eat your quesadillas, and you can't just get takeout. It doesn't really care about what we do. It just needs a way in. So, it's interesting because it's just, that's a challenging setting, but, from all of the, providers that are in our organization, they all have that same issue in their own patient management. Like they're every week, every other day, really arguing with patients about putting their mask on or please leave then. And, patients are like super belligerent, and it's just like, especially like, our pediatrician, Dr. Yancey, he's got babies in there. Ma'am, please step outside, so it's like, everyone I think is dealing with that. And it's really hard when you have this intersection of propaganda that has like compelling political, sort of contexts where people want to, have higher proclivities of believing certain threads of disinformation because of their political ideals and who they align with. Absurdity, mass delusion. But that's what's happening. That's what we're seeing. And COVID doesn't care what we believe either.
I would also say, and Dr. Hudson touched on this, aside from in Dr. Yancey's case, he's a pediatrician. Aside from a patient's mother, sometimes kids, wear their mask down here, right? And so, he in one of our recent hood chats, he was sharing that he wears 2 masks, right? And that speaks to, I think, the fact that it's a multifaceted approach to protecting yourself and the people around you. So even if you're unable to have someone wear a mask for different reasons, you can certainly wear 2 masks, and the people around you can also protect themselves and that other individual by doing what you can do. And this is also true for little ones, right? Kids 2 to 5 are not yet receiving the vaccine, but one way we protect them is by vaccinating ourselves, by taking precautions amongst ourselves and masking ourselves, right? So I would imagine the approach is similar.
Right. And it is tricky too, because of course, a lot of what we try to do is set a good example, because just wearing your own mask, it helps, but it is of limited protection. The real protection is of other people, from what you're breathing out. So, to encourage everybody to be wearing masks makes everybody safer, as opposed to being like, well, I'm wearing my mask, so I'm safe, because that's just not necessarily the case. Right. So you guys are getting all kinds of props in the chat. Mad props to Doug Slaughter. Dr. Hudson, thank you for acknowledging the extreme challenges of dealing with the already difficult intersection of mental, emotional illness and veterans in the COVID era. So thank you, Delirium ? Thank you, Ian Mixed, for those mad props. And Ian Mixed has the question about, why should people go to concerts openly with, COVID spiking and so many don't wear masks? And I know Dr. Hudson would say, well, you shouldn't. Don't go. But correct me if I'm wrong. You're coming to our Indianapolis show.
Yes, but did you show them a picture of what I'm going to be looking
like?
Yes,
yeah. She's going to be in full...
I'm going to be looking like Outbreak, Contagion. Y'all see the movie?
Yes.
I'll be there,
That's
but
right.
I had the...
Listen.
Maybe we'll have like an Among Us theme.
Yeah, right. You can put on a whole.
We all put those out on.
I don't know how many of you guys are deep into Marvel Comics. You can look like one of the guys from AIM with the giant beekeeper suit looking John. All that. As long as you come to the show, it's whatever. You can go whatever you want to do.
I'm excited. I'll be there, but
that goes for everybody.
See, y'all don't know Indiana. That's why y'all look at me like that, because y'all don't know Indiana.
Oh no, we know Indiana.
We know Indiana.
We know
I'm telling you right now.
I
don't go to Kroger without the full A.
We got peoples in Indianapolis, man. That's our folks out there.
That's right.
Well, your folks then took the mask off until further notice.
Well, and it's especially tricky because, in areas, so bars and concerts and places where people are drinking, they might start with the mask off, but then they take it off to have a drink and just don't put it back on. So one of the things, Danjo did a great little PSA at one of our shows back in October where, he sort of complimented everybody who had their masks fully on and properly, and reminded folks to put them back on after they'd taken that sip of the drink. And so what the artists are doing up on the stage to encourage the proper behavior, I think, goes a long way to keeping people safe. And the other thing that I'll say is we are getting a little bit, not a lot, it's on the fringes, but we are getting a little bit of pushback from people being like, well, I'm not going to come to your show because you require a negative test, or you take your test and shove it and stuff like that. And so if it makes you feel any better, a lot of the vehemently anti-vax people are probably not the ones who aren't coming to the shows, because there are these requirements in place.
We've been making sure that so far the few places that we have played, places that have taken extreme precautions in many cases. Some of them were not only requiring negative tests and or vaccination proof, but they were also conducting tests on site.
That's right. At Merlefest, they did that. That's right.
And
love it.
And most of the things we've done so far have been outdoors. In addition to all of that, so we've been able to maintain as much of a safety protocol as we can so far, and hopefully we'll still be able to do that, and hopefully we can bring this this spike back down, because it seems like people are going buck wild out there, and thinking that we're out of this, but it's like at the same time when there's like a highly infectious variant on the prowl.
We're not out of it. We're diving right back in.
It's not even on the prowl anymore. It's wilding.
I should mention
to bring
though,
it back. Bring back.
I should mention that also. I would caution people to upgrade that mask. I also always wear 2 masks, like 2 chains, but you should definitely consider upgrading it to like an N95 or a KN95, so you have better protection against particulates. So.
It's also worth pointing out that N95 masks and anything like that, they actually need to be fitted. So it is super important to have that fit right, because just putting the mask, in the vicinity of your nose and mouth isn't necessarily going to help you anymore if the fit is not right. If you have, for example, a big beard, if you have a lot of facial hair, you're not necessarily going to be getting the kind of seal that you need on that mask that's going to make that, the extra bit of helpfulness that Dr. Nisi's talking about here.
I think she's shooting that shot's firing right at you, Doug. She's firing shots right at you, bro.
I actually, the way I mean,
we need to make like proper like beard masks.
I've seen some pretty impressive ones. They're kind of like they're almost like the lock socks.
Yeah.
That you put on the locks, but it has like the straps around the thing, and it's like. It looks pretty fly. It looks like something you would wear at night to keep your beard lush.
Beard moisturized.
So if we can make a fortune on those here in Philly, bro.
Yo, we can sew satin on the inside.
Mint in Philly on them Johns. What's up? All right, hold on. Let me do a little bit of.
Let me plug up the sewing machine right now.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
See if I can get me a deal on some good satin.
Absolutely. We have a question, another question in the Twitch chat. As stage artists, why don't you have plastic shields like 7-Elevens do? And I mean, so we implement distancing, but part of it is that the plastic shields, I mean, we are talking about air, right? So like plastic shields are of limited usefulness, because if you're all still sharing the air, it can maybe help the large particulates from hitting you, but air is still flowing around those shields, and if you're thinking that that's just gonna save you, it's not really. So we do distancing along with masking, along with the negative test or vaccination required, and none of it's perfect. We try to make sure that we're only doing shows in very well ventilated spaces. We have stuff in our rider about the ventilation, about being able to open doors, open windows, in ways that maybe some venues wouldn't ordinarily do. But we insist upon it. And, not filling venues to capacity is a big thing. Like coming to a show that's at half capacity is very different from going to a sold out show where people are just like packed together. So that's a big difference as well.
Yeah, because for us, it's more than just ensuring our safety. We also want to protect the audience.
Exactly. We're not just trying to
protect ourselves. It does us no
ourselves.
good if a bunch of people come to our show and it's like for next time we come to your town, they remember the Gangstagrass outbreak.
Yes. Exactly.
Last thing we need is the double gamma variant
Double
floating
gamma
around.
variant.
Actually, it would have to be something that you could turn the letters around such that it spelled out media control is forever. Have you guys seen that?
No.
No.
The first variant is Delta, right? And then the second one is Omicron. If you flip
Actually,
the letters around,
the first variant was actually beta.
but listen, if you flip the letters around, it spells media control.
Exactly.
You think I'm joking? I've seen it like 5 different places.
That's pretty much my life every day. It's
they
like,
wilding out here.
But what about?
See, the
what
media
about the
is controlled. The next one will be called I don't know, Refusi. That's why you put the letters in and spell it is forever. Media control is forever. Yeah. Uh-huh. See, what you don't understand is you're not woke like I'm woke. Therefore, until you wake up, my brother and my sister, and understand where the real science is. If you don't understand where the real science is, I can't help you.
John
it's
Jaramillo.
not funny because like literally that's the entire thing. That's why I'm cracking up, because that's precisely what we're focused on right in this very moment, is using technology to analyze all of the audio chatter and Twitter, like scraping tweets to like figure out like what people are talking about and where they're getting it from, because between the Breakfast Club and Clubhouse, like it's a nightmare out here. And the people that unfortunately like sort of hold sway over like sort of Black Twitterverse, our consciousness, are those people who are so
loud and wrong.
Woo.
And then be getting stuff wrong. They be like, spit their whole knowledge, and they be like, salam alaikum.
No, you know what they do, and they turn it around. Like we can't even like be like what we're here to do. We're here to do what we came to do. Like what and it's like, even in those contexts, it's really hard because there's always, when we're on like, Larry Daniels or something, we've got people calling in from the East Coast, yo, ma, but I'm saying, you don't really know, that's my science though. And it's just like,
my science.
I knew where this was going at yo, ma, you know what I mean? Like, first of all, but it's like, there is no your science or my science. Science is empirical. It's what's observable in the known research, in the known universe, and so it's like, that's the meaning of data. That's the essence of data, is that which we can see and record, right?
Wait, run that back real quick. Did you say Larry Daniels?
Yeah.
I went to Penn State with her.
Shut up.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, man. And what year was that? Was it 99, 2000? The whole thing. Yo, listen, they had the Black Student Union took over the hub, essentially the student center on campus. Shut the whole thing down. I forget what it was that happened. They had that thing shut down. It was amazing.
I love that.
He was a big part of that.
Yeah,
John Jaramillo on Facebook also said that Delta and Omicron also spells erotic almond. So, media control or erotic almond. Either one.
Very important. Very important.
Oh, that's hilarious. It's a nightmare out here.
Shout out to Hank and Linda for both donating to Hood Medicine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And if you want to know more about the Hood Medicine Initiative and how to contribute, how to get involved, hoodmedicine.org. Yep, and we have Jennifer, your public health advocate, in the Facebook chat as well. Hey,
Hey,
Jennifer, good to
Jen.
see
Don't make me
you.
snatch her on stage
Eh,
again. Don't make me snatch her up on stage again.
Right, that's right. We did. That was good. That was fun. You can always do that. We got Oregon, we got Arkansas, we got folks all the way across the country in the chat. We are getting a lot of requests for us to come to Florida, particularly Orlando, Florida. Dolio, would you like to speak to the Florida question?
Don't do it. Don't you do it.
Yo, I just really want y'all to be safe. I'm tired of seeing spikes. I've been going back home periodically, but I kind of don't want to keep coming home for funerals.
mm.
Yeah.
So y'all need to really take care of yourselves before we can come back down there. But first thing you could do is take care of your DeSantis problem.
A word.
Thanks be to God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, between disinformation and hoarding vaccine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of disinformation,
He's really hooking up his homies with vaccines and telling y'all not to take them.
Yep.
Suspicious.
That's what depraved. But speaking of misinformation, can we drop some real information on everybody
Please
real quick?
do.
I would love for our resident CDC epidemiologist, Doug, to tell us a little bit about the CDC endorsement of the updated COVID vaccine recommendations for J&J.
Sure. So I should be clear. So I'm speaking as Doug, right?
Totally. Yes.
Right. I'm not speaking on behalf of the
not
CDC.
asking you on behalf of the CDC, but just want everybody to know your credentials. Why you?
Yes.
Okay.
So really, the decision I think was because of a couple of reasons. One, looking at efficacy and declines in efficacy as compared to the mRNA vaccines in light of first Delta and now Omicron, and so that's a big part. I think another huge part is the concerns about the thrombocytosis, and and now keep in mind this is still a rare occurrence. I think I think that the number of J&J doses administered is somewhere just under 17 million, if I'm not mistaken, and I think the number of instances of that rare event was something like 50 or 60, right? So it's still very rare, but out of an abundance of caution, I think the recommendation was made to promote and suggest that people get one of the mRNA vaccines as opposed to the J&J vaccine. So I think that's the rationale behind it. It makes sense to me. Even if you've gotten the J&J vaccine, the recommendation is that you get a booster, an mRNA booster, in 2 months, right, as opposed to 6 months for Pfizer and Moderna. So that that hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on it. But I think one of the challenges is, the messaging, right? And because you don't want people to be unnecessarily alarmed, right? You should be concerned where this, concern is due, but but not where you shouldn't be. And so I think that's that's a little bit of context surrounding the announcement today.
That's really helpful. And this reminds me of an infographic that the Hood Medicine Initiative put out some time ago, initially involving the Janssen vaccine. That's the J&J vaccine. about birth control pills and dangerous blood clots from that. And if you want to talk about like how common is something, it's more likely that you would get, correct me if I'm wrong, that you would get a dangerous blood clot from, related to birth control pills than related to the J&J vaccine. Is that correct, Dr. Nisi?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was like the lowest, that the vaccine was probably the lowest statistic on that particular
right. Smoking, airplanes.
It was like smoking, all kinds of things. Like, I think we just, unfortunately, there's been a lot of predatory, dis and misinformation spread. And, with the last administration, they played a big part in misleading people and withholding information for whatever reason, and really not understanding the nuanced discussion that needed to happen at the very beginning in order to like put people in the right frame. And it's really hard to go back now because from Jump Street, people were told to just like inject bleach or whatever. And so it's like hard to turn back and, be like, no, but seriously, like it's this. It's hard to unring a bell, I guess. Some of the things.
It's confusing too that that so much disinformation came out of the same administration that was pushing Operation Warp Speed, which was the thing that was trying to get vaccines out really quickly. Like you would think if we were going to be consistent about things, we would take note of that. But I'm curious. You talk about malinformation, misinformation, disinformation, and I'm curious from each of you, what is sort of a big or particularly dangerous piece of disinformation or misinformation that you have come across and sort of your response to it. So Doug, what would be a piece of disinformation or misinformation or malinformation, just bad information that you've come across, and what would you say to it, and how would you help people combat it?
Yeah.
There's a lot to choose from, I know.
There's so many.
Yeah.
We could play bingo.
Yeah, we could. One is that one man. There's so many. One is that the COVID vaccines cause infertility. That's one big piece of misinformation that's really spread like wildfire. And I think this is an example of why it's important to not take asking the question as evidence of something, right? This came up recently. There was I think he was a German scientist. I don't recall, but early on, he thought that some of the spike in the COVID vaccines that the COVID vaccine produces was similar to something that was seen on the placenta, right? And he asked or expressed concern that taking the COVID vaccine would cause you to become infertile, right? Your body would reject the placenta, right? And that turned out not to be the case, right? It's there wasn't a real basis for it anyway, but he asked the question, but people ran with that and took it as gospel, right? Even despite it being shown that wasn't the case, and despite it not really being not having strong grounding in science, but misinformation and disinformation, it spreads really, really fast. It spreads faster than the truth, and when you are making decisions based on what you see in data and drawing conclusions and inferring based on those things, you're kind of starting after the misinformation has already been out the gate and had a chance to circulate, right? And sometimes it's hard to catch up. So that's an example of, an actual example of something that's going around right now, that and why it is one of the reasons it has circulated so quickly, and why it's so difficult to combat. I mean, there's a million.
Okay.
Dr. Hudson, I'm sure you have a grab bag.
To choose from. But rather, I feel like, especially sort of in our communities, there's a sentiment of like, there's a lot of crazy things circulating for certain, involving Satan and other things. Satan, but it's really more so the sentiment is that, like, I feel like everyone's like kind of going with the group in a lot of ways and just being like, I don't trust that. And I'm not discounting the fact that because of, mistrust of everything in this world, every anti-Black thing in this world, that they're not justified in taking that approach. And what else do we expect in, a society where we are okay with letting so many people be illiterate on so much progressive knowledge? Do you know what I mean? And so, knowing all of that, though, I also feel like we all sort of have, we've all been through this together over these past almost 2 years. So it's like, I don't understand. I feel like it's like what's happening now, the resistance has to be really like largely like emotional or based on something like fear or anxiety that we don't really understand yet. Because I just don't understand rationally how people at this point could still, even by the numbers, you know what I'm saying? If you don't trust the science or whatever you say, like just by the numbers alone, like we run numbers. People run numbers, they know how to count. It's crazy to me. So it's like there's a whole sentiment, I feel like, in our community. It's just like, I'm not gonna be doing all that. What? What does that even mean, sir? I feel like, and I honestly wonder, like, is it because, have we bought into the devaluation of our lives as the world, just presents so many other dangers and threats that we're not taking it seriously enough for where we find ourselves right now with, Trump about to come back in office and everything that brings with it for vulnerable minority communities. I don't know. I just wonder what lies at the heart of it, because it couldn't be rationality by the numbers. You know what I mean?
Right. Is it? You think it could be that being subjected to so much trauma to where you end up being not desensitized, but more skeptical of anything, to the point to where you're skeptical of everything. So, if somebody, if you from birth, somebody put on a blue jumpsuit and beat you with a spoon every day, the first time somebody comes wearing blue, holding a spoonful of food for you while you're starving, you're skeptical of that spoon because you think the person is dressed in blue. They're gonna beat you with that spoon.
That was amazing.
Right? He be dropping the metaphors.
That was amazing.
So here it is,
that's
somebody
brilliant stuff.
Right. So here it is, something that's going to help you, nourish you, but because it's attached to something that looks like the thing that caused the trauma to you, you may not be open to finding out. Okay, maybe that's not. He's wearing a blue raincoat. Maybe it's not a jumpsuit. Maybe that spoon is not the one that I'm going to get beaten by. Yeah. I can understand that type of skepticism and fear. A lot of people have medical trauma, have had bad experiences dealing with all things medical when it comes to, distrust of doctors, being mistreated by nurses, having their concerns dismissed when they actually do have, medical issues to be dealt with, to where like, okay, there's something wrong here. They're offering this for free, and they usually try to rape my pockets every time they do something that's going to help me. There's got to be something wrong here, even when there isn't. And I could see, I could somehow rationalize that as, maybe if there's a way to be sensitive to that trauma and reassure people that these are precautions that we're taking to help ourselves as a community. I think that's probably one of the motivations behind hood medicine, is to be able to help deal with, how do we communicate with people who've experienced this type of trauma so that they can protect themselves. Because the real propaganda is, don't take this.
Come on, Dolly.
Yeah.
A word.
It's like, no.
That's the real conspiracy. Let them go ahead and believe that. You know what I'm saying? Whoa. That's the word. If it was like that, why are we having such a struggle with global vaccine equity? You feel me?
Right.
So
they restricting it from them.
Real quick.
It don't add up. It don't math. Like redo the math.
One of the things that what you were saying, D, that I've used to kind of explain to a few people that were thinking that way was like, if this is a whole thing, that Bezos and Elon Musk and whoever else, like, that they wanted this all, that it wouldn't make any sense for it to be something dangerous, because supposedly we all work for them anyway, right? So why would they want to kill off their own workforce?
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, what sense would that make? Like, if we're all out here doing their bidding, wouldn't they want us all healthy and hearty and hale? Like, I
to a point.
I broke it down to a guy like that once, and he was like,
right, those F-150s ain't going to buy themselves.
It took him a second to he was like, but, you know what I mean? Like, if that's the case, then that, to me, it should sort of shut down the whole thing, right? Like, it's not like, like you were saying, Nisi, about looking at the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, of all the people that got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, how many? 50 are having this blood clot issue? That's a minuscule percentage. And with that, they're like, all right, well, that's enough. That's enough. You're right. Who else will they put their microchips in? You're right. That's a good point. That is an excellent point.
Microchip thing is the one that astounds me.
Yo, that was the one.
I'm like,
I don't understand that.
You really think they need to put a chip in you?
Yeah.
You're carrying one on you.
No, it's the paradox though. But like,
so you carry this thing around with you every day, don't you?
But how do you believe that, like, we're not advanced enough to rapidly build a vaccine platform to meet this challenge, but we are advanced enough to then take mind control nanobots and put them into the virus? The vaccine, I can't. I don't know. How do those two things exist in the same world? You know, like it don't math. I would implore everyone to sort of redo the math at this point, because to Randy's point, I think it is about this like new class of serfs that we've built globally, and yeah, they don't want to endanger that, but to a point, because look at where the death toll is right now.
Right.
Folks are mad expendable to all of these people, trust me. Like Sweden, the report just came out, like a retrospective looking at how their like lackadaisical approach really works. And it was just like, yeah, okay, you got to a certain level of herd immunity to a point, which doesn't matter with a virus that keeps mutating all the time, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, now they.
But you did that at the expense of the highest death toll on the planet. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're mad expendable at this point, is what we should take from the death toll. So it's up to us to like protect ourselves. That's our philosophy. They're not looking out for us.
Shout out to Jackson, Mississippi. They did the serious rollout of getting all their vulnerable communities vaccinated. And effort was being led primarily with seniors, by seniors.
You probably remember polio.
Yes.
Word.
I think it's definitely because of that.
Right.
Word.
Right. And think about how suspicious that would look nowadays. Right? Like
how many got polio?
Little kids going in and getting sugar cubes, put like, come in and get a sugar cube, little child.
I remember that sugar cube.
And
I'm old, y'all.
maybe that's the way it's headed.
Yeah. I can't remember. Was it you that mentioned that they were in the works of an inhaled version?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe that's the way it's headed. I think there was just a delay put on that, but Pfizer is working on, just like there's for young kids, there's a nasal flu vaccine, and they were working on combining a COVID vaccine with that in order to, vaccinate the youngest children. So that's
what's in that
in the works, but not on the market yet. We are not.
I did hear somewhere that they were working on a vegan vaccine. I heard that, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's to protect you against vegans.
Okay, all right. See, now that, okay. I get that. I see that.
Especially the ones that have the ultra clean vegan diet. They have this super strength. And you need something to protect you.
You're gonna be shedding
tofu muscles on you.
Oh no.
Yo, I remember when veganism really started popping. I had a boy tell me he was going full vegan and he was only going to eat eggs.
Well,
I was like, hold on.
He only eats vegan
Skip
chickens.
the page.
Right,
You mean them eggs that come off the trees, right? Tree eggs. That's what
he meant aubergine.
Okay.
I always liked that name for eggplant. That and I like capsicum for peppers. It's very nice, very pleasant. Speaking of which, we've been seeing a lot of sort of anti-misinformation campaigns that are basically like, if you've gotten the vaccine and you want, or if somebody's trying to force you to get the vaccine, go ahead and get it, but then use this to rid your system of the vaccine.
Yes, that absolutely works.
Think of that?
That absolutely works.
Dang.
You just need a ginger and cayenne enema.
Gross.
And it cleans you right out.
Ow, that burns.
That's how you know it's working.
Exactly.
The burning means it's working.
That's brilliant.
That is so good.
Yeah.
That's like the dude who like made all that money selling Faraday cages to 5G conspiracists. He was like, just put this over your router, you'll be fine.
A Contrario in the Twitch chat says, "Give me all the vax. I want to be tuned into that sweet 5G." And I
Right?
mean, yeah, right?
Oh my gosh.
We also have a
so
lot of
funny.
folks asking in the chat if there is any guidance or if there's if there's any science that we ought to be looking at as far as for those who did get the J&J vaccine. Is there a preference as to which booster to get? Is there guidance yet on whether they should just get a whole new series, essentially ending up with 3 shots, just like everybody else is supposed to end up with? Do you either Doug or Nisi, do you have any thoughts on this? Yeah, Doug.
Yeah, right now it's just the one booster, right? But who people are looking, people are certainly looking at, combinations of different vaccines and what have you. But I don't. They're not at the point where they can confidently recommend, just that you just start fresh, or anything like that. And so I would suggest certainly, if you've gotten a J&J vaccine, but nothing else, then you should certainly go and get an mRNA booster if you're at that 2-month mark. But beyond that, I don't think that you can't say with much confidence and with any data or anything.
I think people, it's just like semantics. I think people hear, we've been hearing a lot of people say 3 doses. What all that really means is that, like, you need a booster. Like, for the mRNA, there were 2, so that equals 3. But for J&J, it just means, like, get the booster. I hope everyone does, because, there's been some early studies from South Africa and on, looking at real world efficacy against Omicron. And, with just the regular course, obviously, like, at least, in the lab, it looks like it's, a lot less effective in terms of, the sort of mutations. They're talking about some immune evasion, but they haven't really, like, put their finger on it yet. But, I think they were saying, like, just with your normal course of whether it was 1 or 2 doses, it's down like 30-40%. But with that booster, you could still be around like 70-80 if you get an mRNA booster for now. And that's, we really don't have much, obviously, to go off of. And they're looking at real world data right now. But it's obvious with just the explosive rate of spread, and we just started detecting it. So there's part of that is the fact that it's probably obviously already spread, and we're tracking it. But the fact that it's taking over Delta now means that there is some immunity that's been displaced, obviously, like if it's able to, and the reinfection rate looks like it might be higher than Delta as well. So I think it's really important that people, start taking it seriously now, because we've heard reports about mild symptoms, but we don't really know if, the impacts, physiologically is going to be the same with long-term COVID, anything really. I mean, people, are still suffering and healthcare systems are stretched. So, if anything, we're right back where we were last year at this time when I did my first podcast with you guys. And, people should really start to take things seriously. But now that we have tools like vaccines, please go get one.
Yeah. As far as the boosters, it's not really any surprise, right, that a booster would be necessary, given that all the science from before COVID on coronaviruses showed that you could get reinfected by the same coronavirus, even, you know, a few months after the initial coronavirus infection. So like it continues to surprise me that people are still talking about like herd immunity as though that's a thing that you can get from essentially a cold, however bad that cold may be, as opposed to kind of needing some sort of continual
well, I mean, theoretically,
reminder
we could get to herd immunity. We have herd
system.
immunity for a number of diseases that we've been able to eradicate using vaccines.
Right. Not saying herd immunity is not correct, just for a coronavirus.
I just mean like the reason why herd immunity isn't working for us in this instance is because of human nature. Like, we have to actually take the vaccines and adopt the practices to restrict hosts, to cut the virus off from spreading and continuing to mutate. And as long as we refuse to do that and keep letting it in our nostrils, it's going to keep going. It's up to us to stop it. I mean, it's what it is. It's a battle of the species, and it's not a passive battle.
What were you saying, Dolia?
No, I was just saying there was some issue. Someone's asking a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh yeah, we have a bunch of fun stuff in the chat, you know, including the idea that we should package the vaccine in a box that says leopard testosterone booster and give it to Tucker Carlson and let him do his thing.
Actually, might work.
So random.
Creative ideas.
You can make it a TikTok challenge, actually.
Right, a TikTok challenge. Nice. Very good. Yeah, we're open to creative ways to, you know, to get more people to take the vaccine. As Dr. Nisi says, you know, you want to limit the number of hosts, but, you know, given can you really how much can you really limit the hosts if vaccination doesn't, you know, maybe is like at most maybe 70% effective at preventing infection. It's great. All the science shows that it's great at preventing serious disease, at preventing hospitalization, and that's what, you know, that's the key. But can we really be prevented? You know, can we get to herd immunity with vaccination if it doesn't actually prevent, you know, maybe 30% of infections or possibly more?
I think so, right? You know, it's not right. It's not a sterilizing vaccine. And what that means is, you know, it doesn't eliminate it, right? You have to be careful I remember I have to be careful with some of the words you say so that they don't confuse people. But yes, but it's a buffer, right? And you know, if you get enough people with that same buffer, you know, I think it will be effective. I mean, right now it's a moving target because, you know, you have huge swaths of the country and of the world where, you know, the virus is circulating seemingly unchecked and is free to mutate in things like Omicron and Delta, right? And so that it just the more effective it becomes at spreading. When I say it, I mean the virus. You know, the higher that bar needs to be in terms of herd immunity that we have to clear, right? But I do think we can get there. You know,
that's encouraging. So
yeah, this is the optimist in me.
Right.
So if Omicron does prove to be significantly less deadly, significantly less serious, but of course it's also proving to be much more contagious even than Delta, which was of course much more contagious than what came before it. Like how much less deadly would Omicron need to be in order for us not to have, you know, overcrowding in hospitals and sort of, you know, to kind of essentially have a variant that pushes out the more dangerous variant and become something that we don't really have to worry about, even if it's not Omicron, some sort of future variant. What would we need in order to get to the point where, okay, we have COVID, but it's not something that we have to worry about overrunning our hospitals or killing everybody?
I mean, people don't show up to the hospitals dead. Some people do, I suppose. But, so it's like the system's being overrun is because of the symptoms and, all of the things that come along with COVID infection. And the fact that our healthcare system is trash. And so most people use emergency and immediate care as their primary care source. So in terms of capacity, make no mistake, we are at our limits. And even if I wasn't just speaking operationally or, like in terms of the number of beds or whatever, we're at our limits in that sense, in a sense of operational capacity, because there are people with like terminal illnesses and chronic care that are not getting what they need because of strain of resources, for starters. And then we also, can tell that, from the suicide rates and the mental health distress of our healthcare workers throughout this time, that y'all keep gaslighting them like this ain't no big thing, but every single day they're watching your relatives and loved ones and friends and neighbors die, like denying it to their deathbed, to their last breath. You know what I mean? Like, that's really putting a strain on people, the system and the people who we think are just going to keep going while we party. This is a disease of personal responsibility. I'm not going to stop talking about it. It ends with us, period. Like, get with it. Like, I don't know what the numbers would have to be. We're knocking on 10 million. I don't know what it would take at this point. I don't know how y'all value life. I'm set up a little bit different. 10 million is outrageous to me, and I can't believe that you won't put a mask on for 10 million lost souls. But don't let me get started. Sorry, let me dial it back. Don't let me get started.
Yeah, my hope is that because this is such an extreme loss of life, I'm hoping that this at least will somehow motivate us to make some serious overhauls to our healthcare system. Much like with the Blitz in the UK, pretty much inspired them to socialize their medicine because there was so much suffering and so many people needed attention. We cannot continue, and what's the word I'm looking for? Such an I don't know, greedy healthcare system. I mean, a for-profit healthcare system seems so antithetical to public health.
Yeah, it's funny. That's why we use the rod of Asclepius as we got that from Dolio, because that is the god of medicine and healing, whereas the what's the other one? The rod of Hermes, or the one that, essentially they use for most of the medical profession. He was actually like the Prince of Thieves, of lies and commerce and all that other shit. And so it's like, it's so apropos that that's the one that we've adopted, and we all think of that as like the symbol for medicine, when actually that wasn't the guy who was, like for medicine. But it's like, that's what it has become, is like, I don't even think in most of the things, our other advisor, Charles, who, is in sort of public health realm in terms of like health and hospital systems inequity, it's like most of the time he has to find a way to kind of finesse, giving people advice on how to optimize their systems, balancing like cost savings to like human costs. And most times these companies aren't prioritizing like things that are focused on human costs, obviously. Nobody is, come on.
I mean, think about it like this. Anybody that's making these decisions, right? I guarantee you that no one that's that anyone that's ever made the decision that a thing is not covered under somebody's insurance would make that same decision for themselves or their mother or their, they would find a way, right? And it's like, all right, well, if there's a way to be found for you and, your mother or your child or whatever, then why isn't there a way?
Right. I mean, you could say that to the people who consistently vote down socialized medicine, even though they receive it.
And by that, you mean things like Medicare.
Or whatever
or
they
just
get,
like free
whatever
healthcare.
congressmen receive.
Yeah.
Or Congress
it's
persons,
TRICARE, right?
excuse me.
I think it's TRICARE.
Yeah. So I heard somewhere that that congressional health care is fire. Like, you could walk in that day and be like, excuse me, my neck hurt a little bit. Be like, all right, well,
Here, have some coconut water. Have some some cucumber water while we
yeah, we had a surgery scheduled for this afternoon, but we'll bump that for you, Senator. Like, it's that real.
No. Take that kidney out of that baby. Give it to him.
Nothing but the best for the oligarchs. Like, honestly, they deserve
By the way,
it all. They deserve it all.
It's
That's
like
gonna be the name of our new album. Take that kidney out of that baby. You nailed that one, D. Gangstagrass 2022. Take that kidney out of that baby.
Yes, please.
Well, it'll be the sequel to Broken Hearts and Stolen Money.
Yeah, exactly.
Broken Money and Stolen Hearts.
Okay.
Get out of that baby. That's gonna be that's quote of the year right there.
You gotta have fun with the terribleness, because otherwise you're just crying all the time, and who needs that?
Yo, but I really want folks to at least try to take it serious.
Well, hey,
I
Della
want to be able to
Luna
use
just
my passport
subscribed.
again without being scared.
Word.
Oh my gosh.
Word. Aw, Vox Ratio just resubscribed. It's good hanging out with you too, Rand. Yeah, it sounds like somebody's gifting. Delirium ? Is gifting. Thank you.
Yay.
So those of you who went to Gangstagrass.tv, you can watch us on YouTube, you can watch us on the Facebook, but if you go to Gangstagrass.tv, that's our Twitch channel, and and people get inspired to gift subscriptions to other folks in the chat. So thank you, Delirium ? For doing that. That is awesome. And a bunch of people are getting gift subscriptions, and we have A Contrario, who's been really hitting it in the chat with the what we need to do to help reform our medical system. Now following, you can click the little heart if you're in the Gangstagrass.tv Twitch channel and follow. And we have a lot of conversations with the Hood Medicine Initiative. Dolio's on the board. And these folks are not just great experts in their fields, but also great people and our friends, and we are just so delighted that they come and talk with us and give you the real information. Not the disinformation, not the misinformation, not the malinformation, but the real information. And you can follow them on Instagram, on Twitter. You can if you just look up Hood Medicine, you'll find their handles on each of those, and you can go to hoodmedicine.org and get all the information about what the Hood Medicine Initiative is up to. Speaking of which, why don't you guys tell us what the Hood Medicine Initiative is up to these days? What are some of your latest projects and efforts and good works?
We are doing some grant writing. We have partnered with some folks from MIT and Rutgers and UCLA to do a couple grants around some of the research I was telling you about on misinformation and disinformation in BIPOC communities. We're working with Silverberry Genomics on a chronic kidney disease project that is sort of focused on genetic testing for sort of, you know, to see what your risk profile is. There's a certain gene in African Americans that is highly predictive for chronic kidney disease. And so, and, you know, it's the kind of thing that we're trying to sort of advocate to be instituted as sort of like standard practice, so that we can try to mitigate, you know, the disproportionate impact of like diabetes and metabolic disease in our communities with kidney disease. And we've got like a lot of cool projects going on with all of these groups. In the new year, a maternal health group that's doing like lactation and maternal fetal advocacy in South Central LA. And we have, we're going to continue our lecture series at Rutgers on like reducing health disparities in medicine for health professional trainees. So a lot of cool things coming down the pike, and hopefully some more papers and research projects. So, and tons more Hood Med chats. We've got some really cool ones coming up. Doug and Dolio and a couple other guys are going to actually do like sort of barbershop men's chat about Black men's health. And we've got, you know, Dr. Hotez coming back at the end of the month, right before New Year's, to give us an Omicron update. So that'll be on our channels and on March for Science, if you guys want to check that out, and lots of other ones in the new year. So
that's excellent. And Doug, what are you up to? What does your schedule look like with all of the enormous amounts of work that an epidemiologist could potentially be doing these days?
Yeah, I'm steeped in COVID data these days, so that's
Lucky.
You know, that's what I spend my time doing, you know, during the day. And then you know, I'm you know, I consider myself blessed to work with, you know, some of these amazing people also at Hood Med, you know, to help us save us, right? That's what we're trying to do. So, you know, it's my time is spent mostly on COVID. You know, outside of that, you know, I get to enjoy my son, right? And that helps me stay balanced. You know, we still get to do the things we like to do, build and fly model rockets, and the stuff that helps me stay sane. But yeah.
Amazing. So on the COVID data thing, I do actually want to dive into that a little bit. Where would you say people can get the best data to be looking at? You know, it of course we have this awful situation in this country where, you know, there's no protocol for how everything gets reported. I mean, even down to like how deaths are recorded state to state. No protocol for how, you know, how COVID is reported, how much it's reported. Some states report recoveries and other states don't. And there's just so much disparity between how different states report and when they report and how much they report and whether they're even reporting accurately. You know, can you talk a little bit about the kind of state to state differences and where somebody who wants to dive into the data as a, you know, as kind of an individual can go and what they should be doing?
Yeah, you know, it's honestly, this is a plane that was built as we were all falling out of the air, right? You know, so there is a lot of you know, disparity, you know, across states. And so I take a both and approach, right? So there's a COVID data tracker that you can look at on the CDC's website. The exact URL escapes me, but it's easy to find if you type in
I'll
COVID data and
put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Um, but I also look at state level data specifically, because even though even though there's some differences in how what the reporting looks like, exactly across states, and there are some decisions that are made at the state level for how the Department of Health is looking at certain things. um, you can compare reliably within those state data. So even if you may not be able to compare accurately, looking at Georgia data and then data coming out of, I don't know, Kentucky or Tennessee, you can look just within the state of Georgia and be able to compare apples to apples to see how cases are fluctuating, by county, um, what deaths and hospitalizations look like, so on and so forth. So that's what I do. That's how I keep my finger on what's going on outside of uh, the data that I do look at every day. That's what I would recommend too.
We've put the web address for that CDC COVID data tracker up on the screen. I'm sure you can also easily Google it, COVID data tracker, CDC, covid.cdc.gov.
It's not ambiguous.
Yeah.
If you look at the front page, the entire map is red. That's it. It's just red.
It's red.
The end.
Yeah. We do kind of need more shades of
There's
red.
like 3 orange states. It's just red.
Well, and sometimes when I look at those maps and I look at the orange states, I wonder if that's a reporting issue. Like sometimes you see a state and you're like I kept seeing, I want to say maybe it was Nebraska, and I was just like, is that the case, or is there a reporting issue? And I mean, I don't know, and I don't know if there's even a way to determine other than doing sort of your own like hospital to hospital surveys.
It's a bit of a mess sometimes to be. Yeah, I mean, and you have, I don't know if they're still doing this, but trying to look at Florida data is challenging, right? Because I think I'm not sure what they're doing right now, to be honest. I should stop while I'm ahead. I think at one point they were maybe reporting weekly what was going deaths, at least, right? But I don't know what to tell you about Florida.
It's kind of
shade, actually, a little bit of shade.
I mean,
A lot of shade.
that's not. I don't think that's going to be news to anybody.
We'll accept it.
Yeah. There's been plenty of coverage about questions about the reporting of data, and I'll
malfeasance.
Yeah, right.
Malfeasance. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not a glitch.
That's right. One thing that I found.
My people, please take care of yourselves. Protect yourselves, because the state ain't going to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Set good examples. Protect yourselves and your families. One thing is, as far as that sort of question of, is it daily reporting, is it weekly reporting? A lot of places don't report on Sundays, right? I found it so amusing that I kept seeing media reports where they were like, after a dip around Thanksgiving, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, there was no dip around Thanksgiving. That was just people not reporting because they were on holiday. So like, you can look at the charts and see that there's, a big dip, but really that's just, like there was less testing, less, just less reporting on those days. Now, some states, that's another thing that's a difference, right? Some states report back to the date of a death, back to the date of a positive test, and others report as far as the day that, that the death was reported, right? So maybe not the actual day of the death. And so that can change how the different states' data looks as compared to other states as well. So, I mean, does it then make sense to look at things like a 7-day average as opposed to, trying to look at individual day data, looking at how things are moving month to month or week to week as opposed to day to day. Does that seem like something people should be thinking of as well?
Yeah, that's because they're anomalies, right? Sometimes, and so looking at how a 7-day moving average changes helps to smooth across some of those differences and gives you some you can infer a little bit more reliably, right? It's not perfect, but it's better.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I have the COVID data tracker up in the corner of my eye over here.
Yeah, if you look at it in the county view, if you show it in the county view, it's you'll see a little bit more detail. It's still alarming. It's still mostly red.
Have you looked at Pennsylvania on the county level? That's the thing that tripped me out. I was looking at I want to say it was maybe current spread or something like that, and I forget which map this was. I want to say it may have been, actually, you know what, I think it was a CDC map that I was looking at through the Maryland Department of Health, and it it had Pennsylvania actually looked like it was doing pretty well, but when you actually then look at the county by county, jurisdiction by jurisdiction level, it's basically Philadelphia is doing very well and the whole rest of the state just does not care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that. I'm looking at the map is the entire map is red. But I was just kind of holding it down.
Right?
It's fascinating because it can give you a totally different picture if you're just like, okay, I'm just going to look state by state. Oh, hey, Pennsylvania's doing great, so I'm going to go to Scranton. Not necessarily. You got to look at that individual community and how things are looking there. So are you guys getting together with lots and lots of friends and family for the holidays?
Like getting together with anybody for the holidays?
Me neither.
No. I want to keep my loved ones safe this holiday, so we're gonna do the safe thing. I want to see them next Christmas. So, no, I mean, I think what's nice about where we're at now is that, we have the boosters, and many of us have just recently been boosted because that was just, released recently. So, and then we also have rapid testing that people can do. So you can make sensible plans, I would say, if your gatherings are small and you test and you try to limit it to vaccinated people and preferably people in your vaccinated bubble.
Can I get extra boosters just in case? I got my Moderna, John, but I would just like to get another one just cause.
I mean, technically,
okay,
on the side.
Could you? Would there be if? Okay, so you've seen the Avengers, right?
I put them all together, right? If I got a couple of extra Johnson & Johnson, just put them in the back of the fridge.
Like the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, right, collecting all of them like the Infinity Stones.
Yes.
I'm trying.
I'm telling you now, I mix and matched my booster, so I'm definitely trying to get in the Infinity Club. I'm definitely
I was saying that from the gate. From the gate, I got the Pfizer's. I wanted both Modernas. I wanted the Johnson Johnson.
Give me all of them. Corbevax, Novavax, all of them. Whatever.
I heard your mans and them was trying to put one together. I was like, let me do a little bit of study on what you got. Maybe I'll take that one too. Listen.
Dr. Hotez's vaccine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dr. Hotez has a Corbevax, which is a yeast-based, more traditionally manufactured vaccine. It's a recombinant protein based and doesn't require the cold chain storage, supply chain. So, it was just approved for emergency use in India, and he's definitely trying to get it in other vulnerable places where we refuse to give them vaccine. So
I want those two.
right? I want them all. I don't know about Sputnik.
Let
It's
them
saying
bitches
like
like
mad
Pokemon.
sus.
Yeah,
It's like
see
mad
the, yeah,
sus.
yeah. The Sputnik one has definitely got a chip in it.
Yeah. It's like a whole bucket. It's like a dude who comes up and puts a whole bucket full of liquid in you. Like, all right, that one I'll buy.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, why you got to wear that suit to put the thing in?
Wait, you got to do surgery to put a vaccine in me? What are you talking about? That's insane. Why do I need this battery pack? What are you talking about? Yeah, no.
The battery.
I can't trust that one, but I'll take any number of the other ones. No, but seriously, we're not. That's not what we're recommending. You should always go by what they've recommended. You know, it is okay to mix and match. In terms of, you know, there's been a few preliminary suggestions that, you know, you'll have some broader protection with a mix, but really it's just most important that you make sure your booster is an mRNA booster. And I don't know, Dr. Hotez, when he was on last with us, he did mention that he didn't mix and match because he wanted to make sure they had data on the booster on the same one, which was an interesting perspective as well, because obviously they might be like following that for in some case, you know, in that regard. But you know, I definitely think people should get them. They just released the approval for 16 and 17-year-olds to get the booster from their earlier time in the year, and more than likely that second preteen group that came after them will probably get a booster approval in a little bit. And it looks like infants and toddlers will probably be right around the new year. So fingers crossed, at least. So we're looking at an opportunity to really, like, you know, get the whole family vaccinated within a couple months. So I'm cautiously optimistic. That feels sour to say in my mouth, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
Here. What do you guys think about vaccine mandates?
Do it everywhere, immediately. If we were prioritizing human life, we would have been then mandated it everywhere and made sure that we were working towards making it available to everyone. There's no other way to cover our species and stop the cycle of mutations. I don't know. What do you think, Doug?
I mean, how? I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know. I wonder how you would do it, right? There are some instances where I thought you might see great compliance with it. Like, for example, you know, the mandate for service members to get vaccinated, you know, which is not new, right? Like, you know, there's my grandfather and great uncles, you know, would talk about how when they were in, not my grandfather, his brothers would talk about how in the military, they, you know, they would just line up and, you know, get vaccinated against all sorts of things, right? And, you know, now, you know, I've been seeing a lot of service members discharged because they, you know, said no, right? So they left their military career rather than, you know, complying with the vaccine mandate. And in my mind, these are people that, you know, if there were a group of people that would follow orders, so to speak, or, you know, take guidance from, you know, authority, I would think it would be this, you know, these group of people, you know, but I'm not surprised anymore by a lot of things that I see.
But to, in all fairness though, The only reason it seems like there's so many of them is because our military is so large. Like, if you're looking at a percentage of the of the actual, personnel
Body.
of the military, they're at 97% vaccinated
still
at
pretty
this
high.
point. 97%. That means only 3% of our military personnel is not vaccinated now.
I mean,
and
that still
which
seems
which
really
which
high
which
for
means,
something they should be able to mandate.
right. But I mean, they're still outdoing us as a populace.
Yeah, for sure.
By and large, it's like, but there's still there's few holdouts, but there was always going to be that fringe. Not everyone who joined the military is in there for the same reasons. For many people, it is essentially a job, and if they don't, they don't want to, if they don't buy in all the way to the company, then they will, vacate that position. What I feel like will actually motivate more people, as far as mandates are concerned, will be liability.
For sure.
Most businesses have to be insured to some degree in order to protect them from liability, especially when things come into putting your employees or their customers at risk. Especially when it comes to the employees, because then you run into even more liability there. If you cannot, if you want to protect yourself from being held liable against an outbreak at a company that you own, then 9 times out of 10, you would probably want to do everything in your power to make sure you're ensuring the safety of your employees. And that's probably where it's going to end up coming from, which is why you see, organizations that have large employee bases starting to institute vaccination mandates. It's the main reason they have, the regimen of vaccinations that you have for like schools and students and kids is because, one kid shows up with smallpox.
Right. I mean, the precedent's already there. We have so many mechanisms in place for required vaccinations in schools, for healthcare professionals, for the military, to travel. There's
Right.
so many contexts in which we mandate vaccination for one reason or another. I think this is just a testament to the power of propaganda and to the extent the issue has been politicized, because everyone has a shot record, I guarantee you.
Exactly.
And
I
it's
couldn't have gone to
expensive.
elementary school without
And you
it.
got mad boosters on that joint too.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy.
That's right. I could not go to my public elementary school without it. That said, I would like to see them done a little better. Right? Like there was a case in November of a 17-year-old who died, and it seemed to be from complications of the vaccine. But if you looked at the actual report of what happened to this kid, she got her second dose of Pfizer 12 days after her first dose. And that's not complications from the vaccine. That's an overdose. That's just a dangerous choice that should have been prevented by like good record keeping. Nobody should have given a kid a second dose of vaccine 12 days after the first dose of vaccine. And it seems like we could prevent maybe that kind of thing by having a mandate where it's, in order to be on the soccer team or what have you, you need to have your first shot by such and such a date. And then you need to have your second shot by such and such another date, rather than having just one single date to have the full course. Because if people aren't watching, if people aren't being careful, they might be giving doses too close together and potentially be putting people at risk. I mean, that's one instance, right? That's by no means a pattern, but it just seems like if we're going to do mandates, we should be a little more thoughtful about, especially mandates for a 2-dose regimen of something. We should be a little more thoughtful and not just give one date, but give 2.
I think that's also like has to do with like this kind of like the stigma around data tracking and collection that influences why people think the vaccine has 5G nanobots in them, because we're, you know, just like, we're so shady about the types of data we collect from people and how we hide that from them. Do you know what I mean? Or, I mean, I guess you can't really hide it anymore, but how we cloak, you know, understanding of data, big data from people. And so it's like, we could be at the point where we could have, you know, the electronic records and the contact tracing and like all of these systems in place, which they do in some other countries, you know, but it's like, we really do need to be more coordinated about it in the future if we're talking about preparedness and like having that real-time data so that we can restrict people's movements in smart ways to reduce levels of community transmission. But I think people are just so paranoid about data, even though like Siri's listening to me right now. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, there's just too much polarization and negative propaganda around it right now, for us to admit to ourselves how much they track our lives. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they know every little thing you do. So like, can we have the data we need to keep everybody alive? You know what I mean? We need to change the way people think about data collection, I think. Because we're going into progressive medicine, into the future of like virtual medicine. I feel like it's going to be important that we, like, for example, with Black people, we need to break the stigmas about genetic testing or like monitoring. Like, we need to get Black people remote monitored so that, you know, all the people who aren't getting a continuum of care will know when they need like blood pressure medicine and everything else. Like, we need to like institute things to bridge these gaps in access to healthcare. But it's going to take a lot of work on the front end, getting people to understand and adopt it because of how paranoid we are about things we don't understand.
A contrario,
all comes back to that trauma.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's hard to imagine anybody saying, "Oh yeah, I totally want to be remote monitored." But you make an excellent point. A contrario in the chat says, we are trying. There is data interoperability legislation for healthcare data right now. There's a real possibility that those same FHR/HL7 data formats can be applied to things like vax status, other records, etc. But public perception will be the hardest to change. You know, and you think about that as far as like, you know, falsified vaccination cards as well, fraudulent vaccination cards that some people are bragging about having. And, you know, it is fairly easy to, you know, if you can get one of those CDC vaccination cards to, you know, to forge one. It's very easy to, you know, Photoshop a fake one if you're just showing a photo on your phone of one. But my understanding is that there are some jurisdictions that have started to implement essentially like QR code, you know, on your phone hooked up to a database kind of thing. You know, do you think we might actually be able to have something like that where it's basically your proof of vaccination is, you know, essentially a QR code linked into a database that where you can actually have real verification of, you know, vaccination status? Or is that just,
I feel like, don't they do that already? And like,
there's some places
that do it. Some of the Nordic countries, and
Canada does it.
I mean, I think it could be helpful as long as, I feel like ideally, yes, to something like that, like something that can also has like contact tracing functionality or a way to, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what people are comfortable with, I guess is what I have to say to that. Like, I don't think we've done a good job of communicating, I mean, how connected we are. I would have thought that COVID would have made the point for us, but for whatever reason, why tell them that it's human nature? You know, we can't get it through, you know, our understanding that we're all connected, and in order, you know, you need to zoom out. Like, I want to keep my loved ones safe, my family safe, but by extension, I want my community to be safe because it's where I live. And by extension, I'd love my country to be safe. And by extension, I want every corner of the world to be safe. But I'm a dreamer. So it's like, you know, I think we need to like think about ourselves and what we owe to each other, you know, as humans who coexist. How important it is to think about these things not in the way that they're, you know, politicized for us and propagandized for people's own ill intentions, but, you know, just in the way that it impacts our humanity. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me, but it's confounding that there's so many adamant people who, you know, will kind of go out of their way to make it difficult for the people like doing the right thing. It's not just that people are resistant to the vaccine or don't want to wear a mask. It's that they'll get in your face and yell about it in the store and like spit in COVID particles all over you, or stalk Dr. Hotez and like public health officials, go to their house, give bomb threats. I mean, it's they're doing a lot, you know? So it's like, some of us might have lost our humanity a bit, along the way. Yeah.
You're getting a lot of resonating in the chat with the we are all connected and, you know, looking out for ourselves and our neighbors and our families and their families and all of those things. So really appreciate that. So Doug, as the epidemiologist here in the chat, in the conversation, you mentioned earlier you were pretty optimistic you're attempting to bring out the optimism, and we appreciate that. Do you think that we are learning the lessons or can learn the lessons that we need to learn, and you know, does it keep you awake at night that you know, people think this is like the worst it could have been, when in fact we could and still could have a pandemic so much worse than this? Like, can we take these lessons, move forward? How do you see that going?
I mean, it does keep you awake, actually, sometimes. More so, we seem to be really slow on the uptake here, right? Like, I think that before the Delta variant really started to circulate, you know, there was a real shot to get ahead of things, right? If we had great uptake of the vaccine, you know, to a certain threshold, if people had really hung in there and just, you know, observed distancing and masking measures and what have you a while longer, but we took our foot off of the gas there, right? And we got slammed with Delta, and here we are again in the same spot. We seem to be slow on the uptake. We're not learning some critical lessons, but you know, this might be a little country, but my mom used to say a hard head makes a soft behind, right? Meaning, you know, if you know, you can not listen, but you'll pay for it, right? And I think that is happening. We're paying a heavy price, and you know, it's converting some hearts and opening some eyes, but it's a steep price to pay for that, right? It could have been so much less worse if we would listen, right? So some lessons we're learning, I think, just really slowly, and there's some other lessons, like just how important communication And, trust is, it's almost as important as the science itself, right? Because it doesn't matter if you can collect the data and glean some insights from it if you don't have the rapport and the trust with the community. If the community doesn't trust you enough to listen to you, right? What will you do with all of your knowledge, right? Um, and so there's a lot of lessons to be learned, not just as a society. There's lessons to be learned within the field of public health, right? About how you deal with such things. But despite it all, I think we will get there. Just but I lose some sleep thinking about these things.
All right. Wow. Well, we've had some amazing conversation in chats, and big shout out to Delirium question mark and A Contrario and Asimism and Lillian in Chicago and Jen 424242, who apparently has moved over to California. We saw her in Kentucky, but apparently she's now in a place where vaccination is required to dine indoors. So very, very different from the situation in Kentucky.
Yes, it is.
And just all of the folks, Noli D and Rusty, and all of the amazing folks that we have in the chat who have been contributing to this discussion and asking great questions. So, Washington. Jen is in Washington. So, Nisi, you have heard this question before, but I'm gonna end with it again, and I'm gonna ask you, and then I'm gonna ask Doug. What thoughts would you leave people with? What recommendations would you leave people with? What pleas would you make of them? What would you recommend that folks do in order to not just help themselves, but help share the information and make the situation better and help us prove Doug's optimism justified and warranted? So Dr. Nisi, what would you want to leave people with tonight?
I guess I'm gonna drop a copy or drop a link to this tweet in the chat really quick, because it gives you a really great visual of the density of particle clouds that erupt from your mouth every time you talk, and how far they spread in a room of people. It's an amazing graphic. I wish I'd done it myself. I'm not that good. But if you want to share that with the audience, I just would love to leave everyone with that picture of that giant cloud of, Delta had 1,200 times the viral load that Alpha did, and Omicron is obviously overtaking Delta. So we don't know if that's because of the viral load or because of some of the other, over 15 mutations in the spike protein that it has. What I would leave you with is sense and sensibility, it has, everything you need right there in the graphic. You can see across the table how much you're going to be spitting on each other over Christmas dinner. And I just would hope everyone would just take a practical view and just cut through the noise and realize that, diseases are communicable. You know how flu spreads, you know how colds spread. And I really hope that people kind of take it seriously and use all of the tools we have, like social distancing, hand washing, ventilation, masks, good masks, vaccines, boosters, common sense, the entire block of Swiss cheese. Use it, put it into practice, and be diligent about it. And don't be afraid during the holidays and beyond to defend your boundaries. It's hard with family. I know I have a ton of anxiety about telling my brother he's gonna have to get tested before he comes over here, but I'm gonna have to do it anyway because that's what is required to keep my family safe. And I have to hold the line for that. You know what I mean? If nobody else is thinking about who is in here sleeping every night, I have to hold the line for them. And that's what I would just implore everyone else to do, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you feel like you'll be ostracized or someone will have an attitude or they won't bring the potato salad or whatever if you make them get tested. Like, do it anyway, because at the end of the day, you have a responsibility to yourself and to your family. If you don't care about the community at large, you don't care about the world and the rest of humanity, at the very least, just hold the line for yourself and your family and make sensible plans for the holidays and beyond until we really see what's going on with this new variant.
Wow, well said. Doug, how about you? What would you want to leave folks with?
I think that was very well said, and I would echo something similar. Be smart, right? And this none of what we've said is new, right? It's really like record players on repeat, right? And I mean, they're tools in the toolbox to employ here. Tools in the toolbox to employ here. Tools in the toolbox to employ here.
What is happening?
Tools.
That was
it's
crazy.
Just really resonating with everyone.
It was really resonating.
Again, DJ
that was so timely. I said, like, we're like broken records on repeat, right? So, and here we are.
Love it.
If you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated, right? If you've been vaccinated and you've not yet been boosted, if you do that, you've been vaccinated. Like a broken record.
I can tell you what's happening. I'm trying to create a redirect so that we can actually share an easy, like, gangstagrass.com/crazy graphic to show the graphic that Dr. Nisi's trying to. But every time I go to try to edit it, it brings up our front page, which is apparently streaming our live stream, which is good to know. But not helpful in this exact instance.
That sounds like a HoodMed Chats glitch right there.
Yeah. Ask. I would also don't be afraid to ask or inquire about the people that you're around. If you intend to be with family, to see what their status is. Ask them, have you been vaccinated? Have you been boosted? And if not, encourage them to do so. Make the appointment for them if they need a hand, right? And if you're uncertain about your company, be cautious, right? Mask appropriately, distance yourself appropriately. If you're in company that you're unsure about people's status, observe some distance, right? Be in ventilated spaces, right? These are things you can do, but just be smart, right? And it's as difficult as it can be. I know dealing with COVID, it has worn on all of us, right? But this is not the time to relax, right? Or to succumb to apathy, right? Because that's how you get caught lacking, right? You don't want to. You don't want to. We don't want to catch punches by leaving our guard down, right? This isn't the time. So be smart, make good decisions. That's what I would say.
Good advice in every way. be smart, make good decisions, and I'm happy to report I was able to create the redirect. So if you go to gangstagrass.com/mask, M-A-S-K, you will go exactly to the Hood Medicine Initiative tweet where they retweeted this graphic, and it is horrifying. It's like it's you know, I remember I was watching these at the beginning of the pandemic, but I feel like this is a whole other level of
it'll make your neck
illustration.
itch.
Yeah,
Seeing how many particles floating around.
And you know, and when people
Is
get
the
all
one with the blue and red particles?
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
the blue's going out
yeah.
this way, the red's falling down this way, and you know,
I don't know parts of it.
my grandmother's in a choir. She's like, I mean, we wear masks. I just, you know, I'm still not. I would still prefer that you know, not that this one where they're all sitting in the office looks like a party. Like it's just there's just particulate matter all over the place. You know, you're a few feet away from somebody and you're talking and it's just is all over you. So if you go to gangstagrass.com/mask, you will see the horrificness for yourself. And if you have loved ones who refuse to wear masks, you can say, hey, go to gangstagrass.com/mask. Watch a little video with me and see what they think of it. So thank you, everybody. Dolio from the board of the Hood Medicine Initiative and our amazing MC. We had Arson, the voice of reason, on here earlier. Another amazing MC. We have Dr. Nisi Hudson, who is the founder and chair of the Hood Medicine Initiative, and Doug Slaughter, an epidemiologist with the CDC, speaking on behalf of himself tonight, and also public health director of the Hood Medicine Initiative. If you want to know more about the Hood Medicine Initiative, and you do, you can go to hoodmedicine.org. You can get this fly swag that we all are sporting here. Yeah, that's right. We've got it going on. All of us in our different designs. I love that you have the Christmas gear. Get ready for this year. Get ready for next year. And you can catch us again. I believe we're taking next Friday and the Friday after that off because they're both holidays. But we will see you back here. I don't want to announce it yet because it's not public yet. But we got a very cool special guest for January 7th for Gangstagrass.tv. And come on back here, send your friends, and check out our Christmas music.
Yeah, and I might
What's your Christmas music? What?
Yeah, I might just have us sort of sneak in a DJ unannounced DJ set in between here. Oh yeah, you haven't heard the new Christmas music?
I have not heard the Christmas songs.
Well, what I'm going to do for everybody who has enjoyed this chat and who's stuck with us for this whole lengthy but important and useful and great discussion, we're going to throw on a little thing with the Christmas music, and I'll play a little bit of that for you guys. Yeah,
cool.
We'll do it that way. Yeah. So thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Shout out to Philly Team Backs.
Straight up. They're gonna be out and about with Safe Hub, is it tomorrow? Or Sunday rather. They have an event with a group called Safe Hub, which is like this sports enrichment program where where kids have a place to kind of hang out and get mentorship and everything. They're having a big fair, some vaccine education stuff, and so that's this weekend. So check that out if you're in the area. It's called the end of the year John meeting. Is that your Philly, the Philly thing?
John?
Right. John meeting. Yep.
Love it.
End of the year, John.
Yeah.
John. Right. Randy got the Moderna John. Yep.
Right.
Instead of the Johnson and Johnson.
Oh! Good
man.
night, everybody.
I love that
Holidays.
Dolio's finally at the dad joke age. I'm loving it.
Thank you, folks. We'll see you on Gangstagrass.tv again soon.
Bye, thank you.
Oh, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing, to celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day.
We celebrate for myriad of reasons, reverence and kinship, all over the seasons, meeting, keeping faith, whatever we believe in. Every precious moment, so imbued with meaning. Coquito and parandas, merriment and joy, from elders in each family to every girl and boy. Festive attire to lift up every voice. Hoist up a glass of your beverage of choice. Whatever it is you celebrate, we've got something for you. Every apparatus from Kanara to Menorah, everything's a part of it from fauna to the flora. Shindig, chilling in my holiday fedora, building on the happy times we're hoping to have more of. Rejoice with the feast, warm tidings how we greet you. We got a full spread, vegetarians can eat too. Sending happy gifts of love and fellowship to each of you. Shorties playing peekaboo, learning why they're teaching you to seek the youth for energy that's reaching through.
Oh, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing, to celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day.
Yeah. Gratitude and blessings for your essence. Knowing that our presence is much more than a present. Heaven knows what we can do with coalescence. The feeling of our fellowship is something effervescent. Checking on your brethren, your kindred and your peeps. Cause sharing peace and love could be the promise that we keep. 12 months out of the year, 7 days out of the week. So let's all celebrate and plant a seed for every tree.
Oh, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day. If you don't celebrate it, I'm gonna wish it to you anyway. And I know we're all just trying to do our thing, to celebrate, and it's all great. So happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Musmaka, Arbor Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Very rough. We can hardly stand the weight. Fresh cup of eggnog ready to be raised. Bunt cake cooling off, waiting to be glazed. Lady by the mistletoe with a smirk on her face. I can taste the fresh collards, smell them in the air. Kinfolk piling in, they chilling everywhere. See my youngin' looking sleepy-eyed with his teddy bear and the holiday PJs he picked out to wear. Man, I dare you to find another season that is quite as chill. Music, the vibe, the atmosphere is real. The laughter of the old heads, they done had they feel. They that good grub and libation catching all the feels. This is more than just a day, we got candles to illuminate, elders to venerate, principles to ruminate. This a time to celebrate, the season is the best one. Closing of the whole year, bringing in the next one.
No, we can't. Don't be late.
Come on, y'all. Check it. I probably should have learned the lesson. Last year I started earlier, rapping presents. Now a fresh cup of coffee is my only friend. Plus the tape and the paper and the boxes won't end. Late night, all the work and the toil. Burning every bit of the midnight oil. Maintaining the subterfuge. My little man got his gifts from that other dude. With the red suit and the reindeer. I don't know where he's at, but he ain't here. Even in a strange year, tradition continues. Y'all thought rapping was the only thing I can do. But I just can't take this all. Plus they're just gonna tear the paper off. So I hope it don't make you feel hurt, son. But daddy just slapping a bow up on your Nerf gun.